Hey guys, it's MegaMilez here. Today I'm going to show you my recipe from start to finish for my chicken tonkatsu. It's so delicious and I'm excited to have you guys try it for yourselves. So be sure to stick around to the end because this is a lot tastier than Taco Bell.
Don't forget to subscribe, guys. It means so much. Thanks.
How's it going, guys? It's Miles here. Today we're gonna do a recipe of chicken tonkatsu. It's one of my favorites. I know traditionally it's made with pork, but chicken to me, I just love it a lot more. But the goal of this video is to hopefully teach you at least something, but also if you're not confident with cooking, I wanna hopefully help you gain some confidence, because I used to be the exact same way and I hate not feeling comfortable with anything or something. So it's always helpful to watch other people and, you know, pick up one or two things along the way. But I hope you try this dish because it's so fantastically delicious and it's really simple to do. So first things first, we'll go over the ingredients. Super simple stuff that you should have, maybe with the exception of one or two things. And then I'll also talk about the pots and pans that you'll need. So without further ado, let's get going. All right, so obviously we've got a chicken breast. We've got some all-purpose flour, some eggs, some Panko breadcrumbs, which give it that nice crispiness. If you don't have it, it's really not technically gonna be a tonkatsu. I mean, heck, it's not even a tonkatsu with chicken, but otherwise you're just making fried chicken. So get some Panko breadcrumbs. We've got salt, pepper. This guy right here is one of my favorite spices. It's a blend of 5 spices. It's Chinese 5 spice. And it's so delicious. The aroma that you get from it in your food, even the smell, it's amazing. And I actually just started using it in my cooking recently and I didn't realize what I was missing. So even if you don't do this dish, get some Chinese 5 spice because it's amazing. We've got some rice. This is one of my favorite rices. It's actually used for sushi, but the texture that you get from it, it makes like a total difference in the dish. So make sure you don't use instant rice, of course. But I'll link you to some of my favorite rices in the description, but just get a real rice. You know, a jasmine rice is fine. A basmati. Don't do instant and don't do, like, I don't know, just some cheap rice. It makes a difference. So simple things make a world of difference sometimes. Some water, obviously, for the rice. This is eel sauce. Don't let the name scare you. It's soy sauce and sugar that's reduced down to a syrup. For a while there, when I would go eat sushi, I would think, how do they get sauce from eels? But yeah, it's just soy sauce. So I think that's it really as far as the ingredients goes. Peanut oil for the actual frying part. You're gonna need a pan or a pot, to like a medium-sized pot, to cook the rice in. And then what's important is having a larger sloped pan. And I actually got this exactly for this video. But of course I'm gonna use it a lot after this. But this guy is really handy. It's like a wok, but it's not a wok. It's really gonna be great for sauteing with the sloped sides. But this way you've got some height in the pan and to shallow fry. So if you've got, you know, one of the rectangular ones, that'll work too. So just something with higher sides. So you can put, because we're gonna be putting all of this oil in there. So let's get started. First things first, we gotta get our rice on. We've rinsed this rice, it's 1 cup of rice. We're gonna put this in to the pot, just like so. And this rice is really delicious, so I'm gonna scrape out as much as I can. Oh, I actually forgot one of the ingredients, because frozen peas and carrots. So that goes in here just to have a little vegetable in the rice. Okay, so this is our frozen peas and carrots. You know what those look like. Gonna toss these guys in here. They've already frozen to the bottom of this ramekin. I swear it's only been like 5 minutes that they were in there. That's awesome. And then what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna season the rice at this point. Keep in mind it's steamed rice and we're gonna finish it with soy sauce. So we only need a little bit of salt and then a little bit of pepper as well. And you season it before you put in the water, just because it's easier. A lot of the seasoning will float after you put in the water. You can kind of stir this seasoning in a little bit too if you want. And then the water in. And from here, we're gonna put it on like a medium burner all the way on high. And the reason why is we wanna bring it to the boil as fast as possible. But after that, we turn it all the way down on low for about 12 minutes. But if you put it on a huge burner, even at low, it's still gonna overcook the rice. So make sure you're using, like a medium to smaller size burner. That way you don't overcook your rice. So we'll get this on right now. So we've got the rice on high, it's chilling over there. Now we're actually gonna fill up our pan with the oil and turn that on low, because with oil, it's like a progressive heat. So you can set it on low while you work on the rest of your prep. And by the time you're ready to cook, it's up to temperature. All right, guys, we've got our oil on and our rice on. We've got to keep an eye on the rice because as soon as it comes to the boil, we've got to put it down on low. And don't be afraid when you actually do this. It's okay if there's a whole bunch of bubbles, like if you are working on this for 2 seconds, it's not gonna make a huge difference. But if you leave that heat on, of course, then you're gonna overcook and mess up the steamed rice. One important note, never take the lid off of your rice until it's done, because that'll let all the steam out and it won't cook at all. So important. Now the exciting part, we're gonna prep our chicken and I'm gonna show you hopefully a few tips to make sure your breading sticks, it's seasoned well. It's really simple, but at the same time, I didn't know it at one point, and when I figured stuff out, I was so happy. I was like, dang, that's super simple. Why didn't someone tell me? First tip, we pat the chicken dry. Why? 2 reasons. One, if you've got any kind of water, when you put it into the oil, it can pop at you and it can burn you really bad. And your face is right there, so that's where it's going. So it's important to do that for that reason, but also it helps your breading stick. If you've got a dry surface, stuff is gonna stick. So make sure you give it a good pat. From there, we're gonna trim off all of these little white pieces. Put that right there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get the majority of it off. Looks pretty good. All right, so now that we've trimmed off the little white pieces, we're actually gonna butterfly this all the way through. Once again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but traditionally tonkatsus are fairly thin. And when you fry it with the panko tends to cook really quickly. So it's important to have a thinner piece of meat, especially when it comes to chicken, because chicken needs to be cooked properly. It can't be, medium like pork can. So you want it, just like this. And this is where, so we've got 2 servings technically. This is where we're gonna start thinking about our presentation. We've got, a shape. Sometimes chicken breasts will have the tenderloins on there. So you'd want that trimmed off. You wanna make sure we've got, an even shape. We could have butterflied this open and had, double the space, but it's gonna look more like a, what are those called? A chicken parm than anything. So we don't want that. So this is exactly what we want, and we're about to bread it. All right, you can see our rice has come up to the boil. We're turning it down. You can see, I don't know if the other camera's catching it, but there's bubbles. It almost looks like we have a whole bunch of soap in there. That's totally fine. So we're gonna put our timer on for 12 minutes. Depending on the rice you have, it'll take between 10 to 15 minutes, and your stove, of course. So like it'll still be good, but you can fine tune it maybe the second or the third time and get it spot on. So now we're actually gonna pat this dry again for the same reason that I told you before. So let's grab a paper towel, pat this guy dry. All right. Now the key here is both the seasoning and the application, the method that you put on the breading and the process. So what I like to do is I season every step of the way lightly, because everything works together. Every step you take comes together, you know, like in like a harmony or a unison. Not to sound cheesy or anything, but you see how lightly I'm seasoning? That's fine. We're seasoning lightly because we're seasoning every step of the way. So salt, pepper, and then our little 5 spice. Very lightly with this, because once again, we're going all the way. And generally yours is in a shaker, so it's easier to get more distribution evenly. I took mine out because I wanted it to look pretty on the video. So now the key here is we're gonna put it in the flour first, then the egg, then the panko. But what I've seen a lot of people do, and I used to do it myself, is they'll season the flour. And they'll season the flour, maybe they'll taste the flour itself. Maybe I'm just speaking about what I used to do. So what I've actually started doing, because you waste a lot of your seasoning that way, and salt isn't expensive, but what are your other spices, like the 5 spice, and that can add up. Unless you're making a huge batch for, 10 people for Thanksgiving, the trick that you should use is to just season the surface of your flour, almost like you're seasoning a piece of meat. So you can be more generous here. All right. And then what we're going to do, we're going to press this in, lift, add a little bit more of the 5 spice, a little bit more salt, and then back in, press. Make sure you get all the little sides as well. And then the important thing here is to make sure you get all the excess off. Very important. Then you can actually see, okay, here we didn't get, some good coverage on that little lip. Push it back in, pat. Again, you see all that excess flour that's coming off? That's important. All right, now we're gonna go into the eggs. And this is just eggs, 3 eggs, whisked up. Nothing special, okay? Make sure you get a good coat. Okay, we'll slide this down, get a little better view. And if you're, dainty about staying clean, no worries, use some tongs here. But the important part is when you're using tongs, when you go into the actual breading, it's hard to control, not scraping it off. So it's kind of important to not do that, actually. So don't use tongs. Just man up or woman up or whatever you want to call it. So now we're going into the panko. But once again, we're seasoning. Okay. And this also seasons the crust. So it's important to season that part. Okay. Now I just laid it lightly on top. Now we're going to press. Okay. Just press directly down. You don't want to scrub off that egg. Flip, press, okay? And then we're gonna flip with our dry hand. You see how I switched hands? Now that it's coated, we can add all this panko until it's really saturated on there, because that's what we want. Maybe even add a little bit more salt over the outside. And you see how even that coating is? It's because we pressed it in. And what's amazing is when you do it right, it's actually dry to the touch. There's no mess. And it took me like so many tries of frying stuff to to figure this out because, I'm teaching myself for the majority of the time. So I had to share this with you. I love this technique. So that's really all. We've got it breaded. It's ready for the fryer. One tip as far as getting your seasoning right, if you're, concerned, you want to know like, okay, is this going to taste good in the end? You've got a hot date, got to make sure it tastes good, is to cut off a little piece, the pieces that we had a second ago, do the same process, but just with a smaller piece. And then if it's under seasoned, adjust it and do it again. And then you'll get it right. It'll take like, an additional 5 minutes of your time. You'll get the seasoning spot on for the actual pieces that you're going to serve to your friends, family, hot date, wife, whatever. So yeah, just, if you want to take that additional time, it's important. But I'm going to move the camera, since I'm a one-man crew today, over to the fryer so I can show you how we cook it. Okay guys, so our oil is about ready. Our rice is done. We pulled off the lid of the rice. So the way you can tell your oil is ready is to just sprinkle a little bit of Panko in. And you want to see some light bubbles and then come back to the surface almost instantly. You don't want crazy hot oil because the Panko, it cooks really quickly. So you want to make sure that you don't burn the Panko. We'll take our chicken, and you can even test it this way if you want to. You can hear, okay? We don't want a loud sizzle. Then we just lay away. That's exactly what we want. Nice, gentle cooking. Now, if we were doing French fries, we want it, our oil temperature a lot higher, but this is perfect. It only takes a few minutes to cook. So about a minute or two in, you want to give it a nice little flip. Gently, of course, so you don't splash yourself. And if you're uncomfortable with using, like a spoon or something, and you want to use tongs, go for it. Just try not to squeeze the chicken because you'll ruin the breading. And with this guy, it actually makes it super easy to check, how done it is. Look at that golden. Let me see. I'm not left-handed. I'm trying not to block the camera, but I'm not very good at it. So you can see how that looks. It's pretty perfect. I'm going to leave it in there just another 20 seconds. All right, I think she's done. Look at that. So now we're gonna put this on, a plate with a paper towel just so it can drain off. And then all that's left to do is plate it up. All right, guys, we're back. Everything's cooked. All that's left is to make it beautiful on the plate, which is my favorite part. It turned out amazing. I'm super stoked about it. It looks like one of the best I've ever made. Which is fitting because I'm actually filming this one. So, first things first, we pulled the lid off the rice. You fork the rice just to kind of break up everything, make it light and fluffy. And what I'm going to share with you that's not for this video is a little secret. If you want to take your rice to the next level and you've got, like any kind of beef trimmings, or you have like a steak that you cooked, you could put the oil, the fat from that into this lightly, of course, and it just takes it to a different level as far as flavor goes. It's one of my favorite things to do with rice, and it's delicious. You could use butter too. It's still really good, but it's not as amazing. But for the sake of this video, we're just gonna do this. You could add in some soy sauce if you want. But yeah, we forked the rice, broke it up, and now we're gonna get the rice onto the plate first. Let me get a bigger spoon, actually. And obviously, you only wanna worry about your plating if you've got a hot date, you're cooking for someone, that's a chef, or you just really enjoy cooking, because plating is really fun. One important part about plating is you want to travel from what you're doing. I have this laid out for the sake of filming, but you want to have everything close. So we're going to go center with our rice, And rice is kind of, especially steamed rice, because it's a little sticky, it's a little finicky as far as getting it on the plate. I could use a ramekin, but it's fine like this. This will work out. So one thing we're thinking, you know, the length of our chicken, we're not gonna put like a little circle because we want the chicken to lay flat on the plate. So create almost like a straight line with your rice. Like this. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then, almost as glue, we're gonna take a little bit of the eel sauce. And I haven't used this squeeze bottle before, so hopefully it doesn't come out really crazy. Just lightly, because we're putting some on top. And what this is gonna do, this is kind of gonna hold that chicken in place when we place it. And it's also gonna season the rice as well. So now we're gonna cut our chicken. Listen to that crunch. I hope you guys can hear that as good as I can. Oh, I'm so excited. The best thing about making these videos is I get to eat this. And what's amazing about cooking it this way is it's so juicy. It's so good. This is why I'm so excited about making this video. It's so delicious. So slide your knife under, and then you just want to do one motion on, okay? Just like that, right? And then the last thing we're gonna do is garnish the top. And you can, if you want to get really fancy, you can spread it out so, you know, it looks a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So now we're going to add some more of this eel sauce over the top. All right. And last but not least, we're gonna garnish with some cilantro that we chop and green onion. And this is obviously optional. Any part of this is really optional. You don't even have to cook it if you don't want to. If you're just binge watching on YouTube and somehow I popped up, hope you enjoyed just watching. Maybe I made you hungry. Maybe I made you regret the Taco Bell you're eating. You never know. This is a lot tastier than Taco Bell. And it's easy, you could make it. And the time it takes you to drive to your Taco Bell. All right, give this a little good chop. Okay, and then we just want it to sprinkle over. I like using both hands, I don't know why. All right, okay, and then get our green onions. We only need a few. Use these two. Then get this a little situated. Cut off the ends. Okay, and then we don't need a ton, obviously. And also, if you want to, you can add some of the green onions into the rice, but it's not necessary. And don't worry about, you know, it getting all onto the chicken. You can have a little natural look. A few pieces that fell off to the side gives it a nice touch. All right, guys, so that is the Miles style chicken tonkatsu. I hope you try it. If you do, be sure to tag me on your social media, most notably Instagram. I'd love to see, you know, you guys cooking from my tutorial. That means a lot to me. Like and subscribe if you want to. And I plan to make some other cool dishes with, you know, tips to help make your cooking much better. So I hope to see you in those.